Morning, everybody. Thank you for the intro. I would also like to acknowledge that we are standing and gathering on the beautiful and abundant Gadigal land. This is a far fetch from my day-to-day relaxed, bare feet, makeup-free days in Byron Bay. So, excuse me if I don't feel extensively comfortable in the whole get-up. So I've been with Spell for the last 9 years, and for those that are familiar with the label, you know that we are very small, but certainly very strong, with very strong principles in our decision making around our sustainable practices. We are located in beautiful Byron Bay, and in my time with Spell, I've also been a strong user of WFX, which is a PLM system. I know there are some very familiar faces here who have used the system before, and I'm so glad to be meeting you all in person again today. And again, Spell is proudly B Corp certified and carbon neutral. What that means is that we have met the highest standards of social, environmental and performance standards. We are very transparent and hence very accountable. For those that have had their hands up this morning that they have been here for the last couple of days, you would have heard so many experts in the sustainability field talking about B Corp and carbon neutral. So it's probably not my space to explain what these certifications are. But like I said, we're such a small label in Byron, but we are so, so proud. And what this means is that we continue to reduce our emissions where possible, and then we compensate them by doing carbon offsetting projects. Because we have committed to do these actions, it is just so important that we measure, and in measuring we're able to reduce and offset our emissions. So without being able to really measure, without being able to collect this data, we're not able to measure and hence not able to do what we finally set out to do. For those that have not heard of WFX, it is a PLM system, and PLM basically stands for a Product Lifecycle Management System. It is a software that tracks every stage of your product's life, from the design stage right through to concept design right through to manufacturing, and even right up to freight, shipping and logistics, which I know some freight experts here in the room. It is the one place, the central hub, where all the information is stored. So it makes sense that this is where you're going to store all your data that's related to your product. Okay, there's no real other option that's going to be better. Excuse me. So what happens with this system, it allows you to in your end-to-end supply chain with your external stakeholders and your internal team members, everyone that's contributing to this end-to-end supply chain is able to contribute to the data collection. So your data is comprehensive, your data is accurate, and your data is timely. Okay, you don't have to wait through the end process and start to kind of run backwards to collate what you think might be related to your raw materials. Let's start by giving you a bit of an overview to just give you some context. And again, I come from a space of operations and logistics. I'm certainly not a sustainability expert. My expertise lie in how to collect data, how to store them, and how to make it more efficient. We have a head of sustainability, Angie Mankini, that works with me, and she's an amazing, amazing resource. So thank you to her for helping me get this together. I guess there is, we all need to understand what is traceability for this to make sense. We will then go on to find out why it is important for the business, why is it important for you, and why is it important for our customers. The challenges that you face as an individual in the business, and the challenges that your business will face as a whole. I'm hoping that we don't see these challenges as roadblocks. We just need to find some ways to get around them. And of course, delivering some technology solutions that we can use to track and make sure that our data is compliant. We are also then going to learn how to measure this data, how to report it, and hopefully you can go home with some pretty simple, short implementation steps that you can take away with you. So with my role at Spell, this is a snippet of Spell's impact report. I have a link at the end where you can, in your free time or your bedtime reading, go and refer to our impact report. There's many labels that I've met over the last few days that have amazing impact report results and transparency, and Spell is just one of them. So I urge those that are interested to really get onto the site and have a read. No different from all other conscious labels, we have 3 pillars that pretty much keep us afloat. Our triple bottom line of people, planet and prosperity. And amongst that we have a couple of wings that sit off that, and with accountability and transparency, that's where my role at Spell really comes to the forefront, and that's where I'm able to share what I've been able to do at Spell with you today. Because we've pledged to be so accountable in our actions and to be completely transparent in all our decisions, in our good decisions and also the decisions that we may not have made the best decisions at that time, we are still transparent with them. And in being able to show this result, it's my role at Spell to collect this information right from our manufacturing partners and our indirect suppliers, which I'll get into further on, and to be able to collate, and be able to then spit it back out in a practical, reasonable, and pleasant way. We also undergo a third-party independent review of our report, and this is to ensure that our claims are accurate and substantiated with evidence. I think that's one key information that perhaps you should take home with you, that we really want to substantiate any claims with evidence, and that's why this traceability is so important. I think it's easy to make claims, but for it to be substantiated by evidence like transaction reports and scope certificates, that really builds that trust between your consumers and yourself almost instantly. And this is where I've supported my team at Spell, and also supported my amazing manufacturing partners all over the world, and hence allows me to come and share my knowledge with you today. These 3 words are used quite interchangeably in the sustainability world. So what is the difference? Again, I will just repeat what traceability is. It is the process of identifying the very beginning, the origins of a product, and it involves a series of interconnected stages along the supply chain. So from the sourcing of your raw material, right through to processing, to production, to transportation, and through to distribution to your end customer. The 3 words that I use quite interchangeably, and really, to be honest, I am using them quite interchangeably today in today's talk as well. So the very first step, you always seek to map your supply chain. And what that means is it's the process of engaging suppliers. So you open conversation, you start to collect the names and addresses of your factories, and you go and visit them. You make sure you have this really robust relationship with your partners. And by doing that, you are able to work out if they have resilient quality control, social, environmental performance foundations for risk planning. And also by doing that, you very quickly open, maybe not so much communication, but you open visibility to your indirect suppliers, right through to obviously your tier 1 through to your tier 5. And I really challenge brands to do that. I came from a production background from the very beginning, so there was nothing better than to go and see my suppliers and really build on that relationship. One of the big challenges I talk about later is about the trust that the suppliers may or may not have, and hence the real apprehension of sharing some information. I think that trust with all relationships, whether it's business or personal, comes with time spent. So, for those that are walking around and sourcing new suppliers, or coming here to continue to love your current existing suppliers, continue to do that, because they are the ones that are going to hold your hand throughout this traceability, sustainable journey. Really, without them, we can't get the information that we need. Once you've mapped, which is your discovery phase, which is really your first phase, and for those that are in your infancy of your sustainability journey, that's what you need to take away with you today. You need to start your journey of mapping. Without mapping, there's really nowhere else to go, okay? Once you've done your mapping, we move on to traceability. And traceability is a bit like your assurance. So once you know the steps of beginning to the end, you are able to publish your supply chain. You're able to show the world where your product has come from and who has made them. So by tracing it, you are actually tracking every commercial transaction between each chain. This is where it gets really complicated. How many of you are actually going back to your suppliers and getting transaction certificates and then having them audited? And I saw 2 hands, amazing. Now I remember doing that about 6 years ago, and it was so hard. You know, it was impossible to get the timing right. I didn't know when the transaction certificate was going to be ready. My goods have been delivered, but my supplier's telling me the transaction certificate is not even ready to be applied for. And, you know, so it's so much better now. And we've worked with our suppliers for so long. I can see one of our loving suppliers sitting outside there with me. And, you know, we've had these 8-10 year relationships, and they know what to do now. So don't let that complication stop you from, you know, starting it. So traceability is getting all these commercial transactions to prove that your chain is what has been reported to you. Yeah, you've got your scope certificates from your suppliers that you need to ask for. You need to get your transaction certificates to make sure that the cotton that was from the farm has indeed made its way to the supplier and has indeed been spun into this cotton t-shirt that you're claiming to be sustainable. You've mapped, you've now traced, you've got all your documentation. Of course, what you're going to next do is to disclose this to all your stakeholders. So there's numerous ways to disclose this. I'll go into that further during the slide. And I urge you all to also get to this step. Committing to supply chain transparency is the most effective way for new business processes to improve, for your mapping processes to improve, for your traceability processes to improve. If you are not committed to disclosing your information, you're never going to be better. And we have published our impact reports since 2017, and they're all available on the website. And it was, for me, when I was preparing for this, it was such a joy to read where we've come as a small label in 2017 to where we are today, and to see the improvements we've made, and hopefully we'll continue to do that. So even though I said this is like a 1, 2, 3, it really is a bit of a cycle, because when you do commit to full disclosure and transparency, you really have to go back and see, oh, have I mapped this correctly? Have I mapped this the way I need to? And then you just keep getting better at this process. So again, like I said, for the purpose of today, where I'm talking about the best way, you know, to be transparent, the best way to trace, I will be using these words interchangeably. Let's just say that we're looking for the best way to tell the truth on how this dress was made from the very beginning. So these are the very basic links in our supply chain, certainly in the fashion world. We obviously start with our raw materials. It gets to our supplier, to our manufacturer, our distributor, whether it's inbound freight or to our warehouse, and then to our retailer or to our end consumer. Within the supplier manufacturer phase is where it gets really complicated. Right? We know how many hands it needs to go through to make one piece of garment, and that's really, I think, where the core of transparency needs to happen. Maybe because it's so far away, our consumers seem to really want to see what happens there. No one really wants to see what happens here, maybe because it's just so in your face, but surely that must be coming. So we at Spell will continue to do that as well. We have a transparency traceability chain throughout. We measure our upstream freight, our downstream freight, and so we really take the whole supply chain into consideration. So again, knowing when, where and how it's made, right from the raw materials to our consumer, is what we're trying to show our customers. I really like to emphasise that in this last paragraph where it says that when you map a life of a garment, traceability also manages its certifications and labelling. Now, when we do that and when we measure our product's carbon footprint, we are then able to communicate to our product's story with our customers. However, it's not, measuring the product's carbon footprint is not, is made possible by traceability, but it's not necessarily an inclusion in transparency because it's a big piece of work. Yeah, measuring carbon footprint is complicated. I've sat with my head of sustainability working upstream, downstream, and that's really, really difficult. So don't worry that doesn't have to be a necessity of traceability, but I think your start to traceability allows you to do that. I hope that doesn't look like it's working on my screen, but it is here. Again, why is this important? You obviously know its importance or you're interested and hence you're here today. It is so important because we all know the environmental impacts that our industry is having. It's hard to close our eyes to that. We are responsible for the impact that we are making. So if we're going to have an impact, let's also be part of the solution. There are investors in consumer expectations now, they're continuing to grow. We are continuing to learn as manufacturers and as labels, and our consumers are continuing to learn to ask us the right questions. And if we don't come to the forefront with the right information and the correct information, it's probably not a very good look. There is a long list of legislation. Again, I'm no expert in legislation. I was listening to many other speakers over the last few days, and there are, I think my top ones are the legislation that are already effective today, and at the bottom they're all proposed and they're surely not long from being effective. So a long list of legislation that as a business that you are going to have to be responsible for. And you can't be responsible for them without starting with the mapping. So the very first step. So don't worry about even going right through to the end of the traceability journey. It starts with mapping. If you can't map, or if you haven't mapped, you have no idea where it's coming from. There is no way that you're able to declare the state of your product that would be compliant with the legislation that is in place. And digital product passport seminar yesterday, which I totally loved. If you don't do this, you just can't sell in the UK or in the EU by 1st July. And of course, there's the social and environmental risk for your business. If you don't know who's making your clothes and you don't know where your raw materials are coming from, there's lots of risk for your whole business operations. Again, it's just, I like to think that it's our job to know that. How am I going with time? Good. So there are lots of challenges in this sustainability tracing, hence it's such a difficult and slow journey for many. Again, if I can be comforting for you, is we have a very small team and it's taken us years, it's taken lots of hours, it's taken lots of effort, it's taken lots of love, but all this is totally possible. So if it starts with wanting to do something, I can guarantee you it's possible. So what the challenges will be thrown at you if you're not already tackling them is that we know how complex our fashion supply chain are. It's multi-tiered, it's multi-territorial across regions, and it makes it very difficult to track and manage the sustainability elements of each component. There's different stages, there is different entities, and hence the lack of visibility with language and all the above, the complexity that I've just mentioned. And number two, the data collection and verification. Accurate and reliable data is incredibly difficult, but also incredibly critical. So we've got this balance where it's, two sides of the almost can't coexist, but the key word is almost. So it does coexist, and it's so important that we have this accurate data. Once we have this accurate data, we certainly want this data to be integrated and flowing into other parts of the business. We know that supply chain operations, production is only kind of the first few steps of this product. This information needs to continue to flow into the other cogs of the business, and that's why it's so difficult for us to move this data along as well. So the integration is also sometimes a bit of a stumbling block for most of us. And verification. Yes, I got a transaction certificate from my supplier. It's the first time I'm reading this GOT certificate. I don't even know what it means. I don't know what a consignee is. I don't know this name that this cotton has been sent to. So all that verification, even as an individual, is really difficult. So you need to get some experts in, you need to learn all that. So again, a big, big challenge for you. Cost and resource requirements. Not very many companies have the luxury of a sustainability department. We actually have one head of sustainability, and sustainability is decentralised. So sustainability is a pillar in every one of our job descriptions. All our decisions in everything that we do has to stem from a sustainable point of view and sustainable objectives. So it doesn't need to be that expensive. There's lots of solutions that I will put up in the next screen. A lot of companies find it is difficult to allocate enough resources like personnel, budgets, and hence it kind of gets pushed to the bottom of the objectives list for a company. And it's the knowledge that you need is just so expansive, right? It's so overwhelming, and so again, it just gets pushed to the bottom of the list. It's just too hard. Let's look at it next year. Next year comes around and it's 2030. So what can we do here? Again, if these are real challenges for you at the moment, take one home, tackle one at a time. You'll get better at it, and you'll get more comfortable at it. You'll start to love it more, and then you're gonna do a really amazing job. With the complexity of the supply chain, that's where a PLM solution comes in. Again, for those that are unfamiliar, that's a product lifecycle management system, which is WFX. So this system already tracks your designs, it tracks what materials you're using, it tracks who's making it, and then it tracks where it was shipped from, where it was shipped to. All that data is already being used by the PLM. So let's continue to use this to then trace it and then disclose it. It allows collaboration between yourself and your manufacturers, and it also allows, this PLM is also usable by your freight forwarders. So already you've got your 3 key stakeholders that are connected by a really similar platform. In the data collection, and where we're not really sure if it's accurate or I don't understand this TC, just make sure that you have a third-party auditor. That's what we have done as well from the very beginning, and that was our biggest key to learning, because we had an outsider who could come in and just really talk us through that, and that really then gives you the kind of the safety net that what you're doing is correct. With your costs, like I said at Spell, we only have one head of sustainability, and we have decentralised those priorities to every single person. Okay, it's the heart and soul of all that we do. And all that we do is related to sustainability. We would never make a decision without understanding its impacts, any emissions, what the footprint is, and how it would impact the final traceability result. There are lots of grants out there. Again, this is not the session for me to show you what they are, but certainly go and seek some grants. It may not come in the form of financial, but it certainly come in the form of knowledge. So please don't let any of these challenges get in the way. Tap onto one of those solutions and get started. We've gone through the top few on just to set the scene. I'd really like to, 22 minutes, I'd really like to now maybe deep dive into this solution that I'm talking about. Like I said, I know some WFX users already in this room, and I have been a WFX user for the last 7 to 8 years. So in Spell, we have been tracking and using WFX for a long time. And both the system and us have got better together. So what WFX is able to do is collect and store this data from our supply chain. So we can't be transparent without this data, and we need to achieve that, and then we need to make sure that all these assessments and audits that we have expectation on our suppliers are continually monitored. So WFX sits in the middle of this chart at the moment, and what it does is it does product development, it sources, it talks to our suppliers, it allows our suppliers to talk to us, it tracks all the materials that we're using, any sustainability conditions that you may have as an organisation already. So it is the central hub for product development and sustainability data. And basically it just says at the bottom, okay, your PLM can gather this information for you, and outside of this system, and I totally understand that we come from different size businesses and different priorities, and we're at different stages of this process. You don't need a PLM to start your journey. We've used Excel sheets for years. We continue to use some Excel sheets, so hopefully take away what you can to help you set yourself up as well. But for those that are using a PLM already, and there's of course many other versions of it, your data is already there. So what you need to do is when you find a PLM solution, find partners that allow you to take this data with you and integrate into the existing systems that you have further down the chain, which is up there. So you have your ERP. I guess for us it's NetSuite, kind of a sales system. Some people use Sen7, some people use TM2 or 1. So all that information needs to flow. The reason we're using that technology is to ensure that our accurate information that we've collected continues to move on, and we don't have to chop and change and pick it up and put it back there again and oh, where did that go? And so we want to make sure your technology solution, whatever it may be, continues to bring it right through to the end-to-end, okay? So your traceability has to be end-to-end, and your results and your data has to be end-to-end. The PLM should then also integrate into your sales cycle, which could be an e-com website business, your mobile platforms, your point of sale. Again, this allows your front-facing teams to be able to communicate your amazing achievements straight away. The information is there, we just need to be able to present it to the different stakeholders. You've done all the hard work, so we want to make sure that your information is flowed on correctly. And of course, with all this work that you're doing, you want to make sure you're giving some accurate reporting as well. So what you would like to do past today is, these are the things that you really want to start with when you are mapping. You want to map your supply chain, your suppliers from tier 1 to tier 5. You want to certify your tier 1 suppliers, have that as your goal to start with. It took us 4 years to get to that goal of having 100% of our tier 1 suppliers mapped. And again, I emphasise we're certainly not a huge business, and so for us to even do that, to give you an indication, it's not an easy feat, it does take time. So WFX can help us collate information on the various layers of our product and our materials. Again, that's where our customers are most interested in. Our supplier records, we want to make sure our suppliers have got all relevant audits that are timely, that are valid. They had reminders for us to pick it back up when our next audit has expired. And then we're also allowing to engage collaboratively between us, our supplier, and all our internal team from the very beginning to the end, and also, like I said, from supplier to forwarder, forwarder to warehouse, and warehouse to our end consumer. And certainly, last but not least, and certainly most importantly, is to manage all our certifications and any required memberships that you as an organisation has specified for your suppliers to have. So, you probably do that already. You probably have a server that you store all this. Continue to do that if a PLM system does not exist for your organisation. What I'm saying is this will allow you to be more streamlined as you continue to have more requirements. Okay. So when you are collecting information on your product, this is just some examples of what you would like to, what you should collect and what you should be collecting. So some of the tick box or information you want to be using is your product circular economy related? Is it made of a recyclable fabric? Is it biodegradable and so on? Any other innovative materials that you might have used? You know, your design and concept team have gone out of the way. They've gone to shows to source vegan leathers. You know, make sure you track that from the very beginning. You know, have that visible for your team, have that visible for your consumers. Any of the preferred fibres at Spell, we instantly will list all our preferred fibres, whether it is a superior preferred fibre, or is it just a good preferred fibre? You know, is it linen versus organic cotton, transitional cotton versus organic? And you also want to track, maybe you've started to use fibres that you want to phase out as a business. You know, we took 3 years to determine what fibres we want to phase out, and we made sure we track that and make sure that we tracked that every year our percentage of phase out fibres were reducing. And now we've completely phased it out. So without tracking that, you can't celebrate those small wins. You also want to start tracking safe to use ingredients, if you've got any use of innovative technologies, and any sustainability profile that you might have already done on your product as well. And again, more examples of data that you can attach to your product record, so, or your supplier record. So, sorry, I lied, this is mostly just related to your products at this stage. So if you have a transaction certificate for the cotton that you're using in your t-shirt, put that in this product. It's much easier to report when everything is in one place. So you're storing all your certificates that are related to your fibres, whether it's your Lensing Eco Vero certificate, your GOTS transaction certificate. What WFX is able to do is there is a very, very detailed build of material functionality, and what that does, it has already broken down your supply chain for you. By you adding your bill of materials in this system, it has already identified to you where those zips have come from, where the buttons have come from, are they coconut, are they plastic, where your raw materials have come from. This is a great start for you to then go back to your tier one and start getting the nitty-gritties of your supplier names, your addresses, and start doing your research on those, the mapping that you've done. Because it's already helps you break down in its tiers, it really starts that accountability journey from the very beginning. And again, because there's collaboration with your supplier, this is done hand in hand, right? Not just yourself sitting behind your desk and trying to work this out yourself. Of course, with the PLM, you also have supplier records. You want to make sure that all your supplier data is included in this system. You want to ensure that you have all their certifications, all their audits attached to their record. It's easily referred to. You can set reminders on when the certification has run out, and you're not setting calendar reminders, and you know, it sends automated emails to your supplier to, can you please reattach your GOTS certification within the next month or two. And again, just that one place where we can store everything. If you don't have a PLM, make sure you set your own reminders and store them carefully, because these are very, very crucial information. So again, together with the builder material that we saw in a couple of slides ago, talk with your supplier, trace where the yarn and the cotton supplier and the fabric supplier and who your digital printer was, who your screen printer was, and really have those robust conversations. For those that haven't started those conversations, maybe my only tip is for you to start. You know, meet them today, buy them a coffee, go and visit them in China or in India. That, you know, to me, that was the best part of my role. I love going to see them. I love, you know, traveling and looking at all those factories. So if you haven't already delved into starting conversations with the supplier, certainly do that. The PLM allows us, the strongest functionality of this PLM, aside from using Excel and so on, is this collaboration framework. What it means is the supplier already uses this PLM, because that's where you send your tech packs, that's where you send them all the information about the trims. They trust the system, they trust you. It's not a foreign system. So when you just send them another link to collaborate for a TC, it's a familiar process. You know, it's not another email you have to create. It's not another difficult conversation you have to have. It's just part of the whole supply chain now. They know this system well. You know, they know the colours, they know the look and feel. So this collaborative framework in this PLM is key and a real benefit. And it's literally a click of a button. You can go to every single of your supplier at every single tier at the right time of the product life cycle and requests for this traceability information. This documentary evidence really shifts from mapping to traceability when you're able to do this. You know, mapping is kind of done by yourself. You look ahead and you map, but when you have this collaboration, it really moves it into the next step of it being traceable. You know, you've done so much more than just mapping. You've made it traceable, you've made it reliable. And without technology to support you, you are sending emails, you are tracking responses, you're flagging to hit a resend, and then you're filing away into servers. All still very doable and very effective. The next one that we can track is, or we should track, is all our energy miles or carbon footprint for our products. And we only started doing this at Spell a couple of years ago, and we really calculated our carbon footprint because we made a goal in our roadmap that we will carbon offset. It is another huge piece of work. Certainly, maybe don't put that as your priority to tackle, but a very, you know, from my geeky side, it was a real fun exploration. And from that, again, we've collected this data, we've sat on it for a couple of years, and now we've rejigged our whole calendar so that we're able to sea freight so much more. You know, I know those that work right in the day-to-day of production, we know how difficult it is to sea freight our goods. It's near impossible with sea freight timelines, with you know, sales windows closing and having to get our product here. It is difficult, but it's not impossible. We measured for 2 or 3 years and we knew how important it is for us to change our calendars to make it happen. We've changed lots of work processes to make it happen. Again, all because we are so committed to traceability. We have this information that allows us to do things better. And finally, all our certifications, they're pretty straightforward. I'm sure most of you are already doing that. Any supplier certifications, make sure you store them well and continue to work with your suppliers to make them more accountable as well. We've grown, you know, our top 3 suppliers that we work with have totally loved the journey they've been on with us. We are better, they're better, you know, we just continue to learn from each other and from, you know, other connections that we make and opportunities like today. Almost to the end of measuring and reporting. So you've done all this wonderful work. What do? We shout loud and proud, and we certainly publish it to our various people. That's probably a little bit distracting with that moving, but that's just an example of our impact report on our website. And pause that. So with all this work that we've done, we publish annual sustainability reports. We have interim updates to our customers using emails. We have our digital platforms that we share all our information. Oh, I've timely stopped at a photo with me and with one of my suppliers. So we use all our digital platforms to certainly celebrate all our small and big wins. And we have our stakeholder engagements. We make sure they are completely engaged with this result as we are, because we know that by making it their priority, then it instantly becomes ours. And with our certifications and labels, we will identify them on our clothing directly, whether on swing tags or on care labels, and on our minimal packaging. Some action plans for you today, whether or not you take this technology solution home with you. It's really important for you to start something today. You've made the effort to come here today, and I know that you are completely passionate about this. You just need to go home, sit with yourself, sit with your small team, measure your goals and set some timelines. Some of your goals that you might come up with is to go, okay, I just want to improve my supply chain transparency by 30%. I want to be able to reveal all my tier 1 by FY24. I want to reduce I want to achieve 90% supplier compliance within a certain time frame. So you don't have to make any big goals, just make one goal to start with. Assemble yourself a team. It's very difficult to go about this on your own. Even, when we were so, we loved it so much, we were all in, but we just needed, to bounce ideas off, and you needed that accountability between each other. And make sure you get a team of varied expertise. Get someone from IT to be in this with you. Get someone from supply chain. Get someone in design, so they're making the decisions in the beginning, making the good decisions for you in the beginning. Create your timelines and communicate your plans. We talk about, as soon as you tell someone what you're doing, then you're instantly accountable. So communicate that internally to your stakeholders, communicate that to your customers, and schedule, some meetings to get going. Certainly do your training, and if you do decide to implement an IT solution, make sure your training is smooth. Make sure there's, you take away any change behaviour hurdles. Because what you're tackling is, the big question in mine is your sustainability accuracy, not about, them learning a new skill in an IT system. And certainly deploy your change in phases. Make sure you implement the system either one product at a time, one collection at a time, one supplier at a time, one category at a time. And instantly that expansive work that you think you need to do has suddenly become so much chunkable, so much more manageable, and it feels good once you've done that. It's a real win, and you instantly start to think, oh, I can do this, I can do more of this tomorrow, I can do this better tomorrow. It sets you up for huge success. And of course, monitor and adjust your efforts. Be honest about what you've been able to achieve and what you have not been able to achieve. And again, as with all reporting, sustainability or not, if you don't even have your data, you don't know where you're starting off, it's really hard to improve and to do the right thing. So be honest with your monitoring and your adjustment, and gather feedback from various users. And if data accuracy is a problem, identify your root cause, whether it's your suppliers. Make sure your data is accurate. It's not even about how much data. I think it's more important that your data is accurate. So when we've deployed it in phases, just make sure that one phase is 100% correct. Don't worry about getting all the certifications. Just get that one certification and go all out and make sure you get that verified, get that traced, get your chain of custody, and learn all that prior to getting caught up with the so many steps after. That's it. I think I kind of got to the end. I've left that doesn't work. I left a link here for you to get to our impact report at Spell. Again, it is such a precious piece of information for you. It's pretty, so it's really easy to read, and it's got really relevant information. And for those that, like I said, are really interested to track how we have done this work for the last few years, we have our impact report every year from 2017 on the website. And just to see all our achievements over the years. And again, we certainly didn't do things right from the very beginning. We didn't do things as well as we're doing them today. So hopefully in a few years when we do meet again, you're going to be doing bigger and amazing things.
Round of applause.